Okay, hi. My name's Jessica. I've always been interested in microbiology. It's very interesting to me. I do know a lot about it. I'm taking a class right now in microbiology. That's not why I'm interested in it. I always have been. Anything to do with bacteria or viruses or little tiny things that can get in you and cause damage, big fan. I pay attention to them in the news a lot. Lately, there has been a case just last June of a girl who went to a whitewater rafting center and died. She came out with an infection after she whitewater rafted. She died of it, and NBC reported that it was a microbe in the water. So of course my interest was piqued, and I decided to find out more about it. Turns out the culprit was a microscopic amoeba called Naegleria fowleri, which sounds very technical. Perhaps you might know its street name, the brain-eating amoeba. So my interest was piqued by brain-eating amoeba. I actually knew a little bit about it. There were a couple cases in 2014 that I kind of paid attention to, but this was the first time I'd heard of it being caught by someone in a pool. So I did some research. I did read some articles. I found out some fun things I think that we all should know about this because we all use water. So here's what I think we should know about Naegleria fowleri. Here is the guy I'm talking about. That's it. He looks scary. He is microscopic. This is taken with a scanning electron microscope. This guy, look here, look, he's going to come eat your brain out. He looks really scary. They don't actually have eyes and mouths. That's what it appears to be, but these actually, it's how they eat. These are called phagocytes. They're called phagocytes. And what they are, they're like, they reach out and they eat like this. They take their body and they capsule bacteria and they eat it. So that's just the process of it eating. So these pictures are scary, but they're not really what it looks like. This is what it actually looks like. Like I said, it's amoeba. And amoebas are squishy and jelly-like and very small, very see-through. These are called pseudopods because it squishes its way through the water. It pushes itself forward, then it pulls itself behind. So this is what Naegleria fowleri looks like. This is what caused that girl to die in the water. The name brain-eating amoeba is a misnomer because it's not some zombie-like thing seeking out people's brains to eat. If it does, when this infection happens, it's purely an accident. And the first thing I want you to know about this is the only way to get this infection is by water going up your nose. These live in fresh water. They mainly eat bacteria. They're not in the ocean. They're just in water. But if you were to get water up your nose high enough, and the water happened to contain the amoeba, it could go in through the top of your nasal passages, through bone. There's those small holes in your bone to where the olfactory nerve is, which is what your brain smells with. And it'll travel up your olfactory nerve into your brain. These live in water. They like warm, they like wet, and they're hungry. So when they find themselves in your nasal passages, they're going to seek out warm and wet and food. So they travel up the nerve into your brain, which just happens to be wet and warm. And in the absence of having organic bacteria around, it'll eat the next best thing, which I guess is brain cells. It will start eating brain cells to sustain itself. So NBC News kind of reported that the reason why she got this up her nose in that pool was because it wasn't chlorinated enough. Chlorination will kill these in about every pool you're in unless they don't take good care, which they didn't. They think that she was on her raft and she fell off into the water, shooting water up her nose, and that is what caused this to happen. So when she did get it up her nose and went into her brain, it started causing the infection. The next thing to know about this amoeba is the infection it causes. Amoebas grow by eating, getting bigger, and then multiplying. So one amoeba becomes 2, and then 2 becomes 4, and so you start having these multiply in your brain, and they're eating your cells for sustenance. So they start to break down tissue in your brain. You're going to start getting things like a headache, because they're right here, frontal headache. That's where they start. You're going to feel nauseous. You're going to get a fever. You're going to feel really bad, and it's going to progress to stiff neck, hallucinations. You're going to get mental states. You're going to start kind of losing it because your brain's breaking down, and eventually it will kill you. In fact, it has a 97% fatality rate. There have been 138 cases, and only 4 people have survived this, 3 of whom were in the United States. So this is pretty dire. If this thing gets in you, you're pretty much toast. They tend to think it's bacterial meningitis because of the stiff neck and the vomiting, and it tends to mimic that. It's way more common to get bacterial meningitis, so they will start treating for that, which of course does nothing to stop amoeba. It's not bacteria. So the doctors misdiagnose it in 97% fatality rate. Not that there's really good news about any of that, but the last thing to know about this that is a good thing is this is insanely crazy rare. The 138 cases I talked about were they occurred in a 53-year period, from 1962 when they started keeping records to 2015. That's 53 years, 138 cases. So the CDC puts the rate of infection at 0 to 2 a year. So basically, you're not going to ever catch this. It's just, no one really knows why some people end up getting this and other people don't. Like people in the same pool. The girl on the raft, she was on a raft with 8 other people. They all fell over when she fell in, but only she managed to catch it. The CDC, researchers have no idea how to really quantify or assess how many are in water. So they don't have any way to assess any risk, and so they don't have any way of protecting yourself. Basically, they say there's no risk, don't worry about it. So it's really, really, really rare, which is good news. We're not all going to get our brains eaten by this crazy-looking amoeba. If you do want to try to protect yourself or feel like you need to, lower your risk, just use nose plugs. Because it can't get in your nose, can't get in your brain happy, no problem there. If you're in like water that's like lakes or anything, just don't stir up the sediment because that will stir it up. So basically, though, like the CDC says, there's a minuscule risk. You don't have to worry about it. You'll probably be okay. So just to recap some things about brain-eating amoeba. It lives in warm, fresh water. It'll enter through your nose, crawling up through the nerve into your brain. It'll start to multiply using your brain cells as food. It'll cause damage and swelling. It has a 97% fatality rate. Fortunately, though, it's very, 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 very rare. I feel like few things really shock us anymore, especially in the news nowadays, but when you hear something like a girl goes to a pool and gets a brain amoeba and then she's dead, it catches your attention. Luckily, though, for us, we never have to worry about us actually catching it. Thank you. The end.